Look, I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. I'm talking to you, not your screen, not your comments, you. You think you're ready for the collapse? Because you've got some gear in the closet, a bug-out bag you barely use, and a few freeze-dried meals stacked in a bin? Let me tell you something real. Collapse doesn't give you warnings. It doesn't give you second chances. And it sure as hell doesn't care how prepared you feel. What gets people ruined isn't what they forgot. It's the stuff they thought was smart that actually turns on them. And that's what this video's about. 12 prepping moves people still swear by. That'll backfire the second things get real. Moves that look smart, feel smart, but when the grid goes down, they expose you. I'll walk you through each one, tell you exactly what I think, and then I want your opinion too. Because survival's not about being right, it's about staying alive. Here's the truth no one tells you. Most preppers will fail not because they didn't try, but because they didn't think clearly. They followed trends, copied other people's setups, watched too many Instagram reels, and they built their entire collapse plan on moves that look good on camera, but collapse in reality. I've seen it. I've made some of those mistakes myself, but you don't have to. We're breaking down 12 risky prepping moves that people are still making right now thinking they're smart, thinking they're ready, and they're not. I'm not just listing them. I'll tell you why they fail, what I personally think about each one based on real-world survival logic, and then I want to hear from you, because no one's coming to fact-check your preps when the lights go out. You're either ready or you're exposed. So pay close attention, because if even one of these mistakes is still in your plan, your whole system could crack before the first siren ever sounds. Let's get into it. Number 1. Overloading your bug-out bag like it's a suitcase. It's one of the most common mistakes out there. People build their bug-out bag like they're going on vacation, not running for their life. They stuff it with every gadget they see on some YouTube list, thinking more gear means more survival. But let me ask you something. Have you ever actually worn that bag for more than an hour? When collapse hits and you're on foot, maybe dodging checkpoints, climbing debris, or walking miles through broken cities, that 40-pound tactical beast on your back turns into a trap. It'll slow you down, drain your energy, wreck your knees, and worst of all, it paints a massive target on you. People don't see a survivor, they see a walking supply drop. Now here's what most folks don't realize. 80% of what's in their bag, they'll never touch it, not once. And the other 20%? They packed the wrong version of it, too bulky, too fragile, too complicated to use under pressure. My opinion? If you can't run, crouch, or crawl in your full kit, it's not a bug-out bag. It's a bug-down bag. I've seen guys drop their entire setup on the second mile because they realized what they packed was for comfort, not survival. A real bag should be light, tight, and fast. Just enough to keep you alive, nothing more. Now you tell me. How much does your bug-out bag weigh fully packed? Be honest and ask yourself, if you had to carry that thing on foot, non-stop for 48 hours, could you? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to know who's really tested their load and who's just packed for the fantasy. Number 2. Relying on gear you've never actually tested. Let me guess, you've got a tactical flashlight, water filter, multi-tool, solar charger, maybe even a fancy survival stove. All brand new, still shiny. Looks great on camera. Looks even better sitting in your bug-out bag. But here's the problem. You've never used any of it under stress. Not once. Collapse doesn't wait for you to figure things out. When the pressure hits, when the lights are gone, the grid is down, and you're working on no food, no sleep, and no second chances, that gear becomes dead weight if you haven't put it through real use. A water filter still in the box might clog the first time. That fire starter you tried once in the backyard? Try that again in 20 miles per hour wind and rain. Your knife? You sure it holds an edge after batoning? Most people have no idea how fragile their life-saving gear really is until they need it. My take? If it hasn't been tested in field conditions, not theory, not in a YouTube review, but by your own hands, in dirt, in cold, in chaos, it's not survival gear. It's decoration. I don't care how expensive or high-rated it is. If it fails when you need it most, it was never gear to begin with. Every piece of equipment you count on needs to be muscle memory, not a mystery. When your life is on the line, there's no manual, no tutorial, no time to learn. Now let me ask you, what's one item in your bug-out kit you've never actually used in a real-world test? Drop it in the comments. Let's see who's gear ready and who's gear fantasizing. Number 4. Stockpiling the wrong kind of food. Let's get one thing straight, just having food isn't the flex you think it is. I've seen people show off shelves stacked with ramen, canned chili, and instant oatmeal like they just built Fort Knox. But collapse doesn't care how many calories you've hoarded. It cares whether your body can survive off it long term. Here's the truth. Most preppers are loading up on cheap, low-nutrient junk that's fine for 3 days, but by day 10, it's wrecking your energy, messing with digestion, and killing morale. Too much salt, not enough fiber, no real protein. And forget vitamins. You think you'll just pop a multivitamin? Try doing that on an empty stomach with stress and no clean water. You think a cup of instant noodles will fuel you through night watch or hauling gear? Try burning 3,000 calories on 800 worth of sodium bombs. That food might keep you alive, but it won't keep you functional. And in collapse, barely alive gets you killed. My take? You don't just need food. You need food that keeps your brain sharp, your gut clean, and your body ready to move. I always ask, can this meal keep me alert after 10 hours of stress? If the answer's no, it doesn't go in the stockpile. I'd take 10 days of balanced survival nutrition over 30 days of junk calories anytime. Because the guy with the bigger stash doesn't win, the guy who lasts longer does. Now your turn. What's in your food preps right now that you know you wouldn't want to eat cold, tired, and under pressure? Drop it in the comments. Let's separate the real fuel from the fantasy food. Number 5. Assuming your group will figure it out when the time comes. Here's what most people don't realize. Your survival group is only as strong as its weakest link, and most preppers don't train their people at all. You've got your cousin who knows how to shoot, your neighbor who says he'll help, maybe a few friends who think it'll be like camping with guns. Sounds good on paper, right? Wrong. Because when collapse hits, when emotions spike, supplies run low, and every decision has consequences, that same group falls apart, fast. No roles, no communication plans, no drills. No decision-making hierarchy. You think they'll just rise to the occasion? They won't. Most people crack under stress, especially when they're hungry, sleep-deprived, and scared. And if you haven't trained them, if you haven't tested your group under any real pressure, then you're not leading a survival team. You're babysitting a liability squad. My take? If your group can't run a full 48-hour simulation together, if they've never done a mock bug-out, fire drill, or even a radio check, then collapse will break them. I'd rather go solo with a clear plan than drag 5 half-prepared people into chaos. Trust and loyalty matter, but collapse doesn't care how good your friend is at Call of Duty. It cares whether he knows how to purify water, treat a wound, and shut up when stealth matters. Now let me ask you, be honest, have you actually run any survival exercise with your group? Or is your plan just based on promises? Drop your answer in the comments. Because the time to find out if they're ready isn't when the grid goes down, it's right now. Number 6. Trusting GPS or Google Maps as your bug-out route. You've got your bug-out route planned, right? It's mapped, highlighted, marked with fuel stops and water sources. You've even got alternate routes saved on your phone. Sounds smart. Until the power's out, the towers are down, and your phone turns into a useless brick. Here's the reality. Most people are so tech-dependent, they've never once tested their escape plan without GPS. They've never walked it. Never driven it under pressure. Never tried it in bad weather, low light, or panic mode. Let me tell you something. Collapse doesn't follow your directions. Roads get blocked, bridges collapse, highways become kill zones. And that carefully mapped route you planned from your couch? It's not worth a damn if you haven't tested it in real life. You think you'll just figure it out? Try doing that with your kids crying, your pack cutting into your shoulders, and smoke on the horizon. It's not just about where to go. It's about how to get there when nothing works. My take? If you haven't walked or driven your bug-out route at least once without a device, in silence, under stress, you're not ready. I keep a paper map with my own markings. Not the ones Google gives me, the ones I made, based on terrain, choke points, and fallback zones. You need to be able to move when signals fail, because in a real collapse, the people relying on GPS get stuck, rerouted, or dead. Now your turn. Have you ever tested your bug-out route with zero tech? No phone, no GPS, just instinct and backup plans? Drop your answer below, because if your plan lives on a screen, it dies when the screen does. Number 7. Thinking one firearm solves all your problems. So you've got a gun, maybe a shotgun, maybe a handgun, maybe that AR you've been showing off. Good for you. But let me ask you something real. Do you actually know how to use it when your heart's pounding, your hands are shaking, and someone's trying to take what's yours? Because collapse isn't the range. There's no perfect stance, no do-overs, No RO calling ceasefire. People think owning a gun equals being ready. But here's the truth. Most preppers are armed but untrained. They've shot at paper targets, not moving threats. They've practiced standing still, not while pushing through panic, exhaustion, or adrenaline. And what about maintenance? How many actually clean their gun under field conditions? How many have tested firing from cover, in low light, with gloves, while freezing, while sweating, while shaking? Not many. Worse, some people over-rely on their firearm as the ultimate solution, like it's going to solve every threat. But guns jam. Ammo runs out. Sound draws attention. And if your firearm is your first and only plan for defense, you're already in trouble. My take? I don't care what you carry. I care what you've trained for. A cheap weapon in trained hands is deadlier than a $2,000 rifle in soft hands. And a real survivor never counts on the gun to do all the thinking. Train with stress, train with speed, or train to be the first casualty. Now let me ask you, when's the last time you fired your weapon cold, no warm-up, no prep under pressure? Drop your answer below. Because if your first shot in collapse is your first shot in months, you won't get a second. Number 8, ignoring mental collapse while prepping for physical survival. Everyone talks about bullets, beans, and bug-out bags, but no one's asking the real question. What happens when your mind breaks before your body does? People prep like machines. They stockpile tools, run drills, sharpen knives. But collapse doesn't just test your gear, it shatters your psychology. You think surviving without Wi-Fi is hard? Try surviving 10 days with no human contact, no power, constant fear, and the sound of nothing but your own thoughts. Here's the truth. Most preppers have zero mental endurance. They've never fasted for days, never gone without sleep, never trained themselves to stay calm while everything falls apart around them. And when it hits, when the routine vanishes and reality goes quiet, their own thoughts start to crush them. Panic sets in, doubt creeps in. People turn reckless, emotional, loud and loud gets you killed. My take? Mental endurance is the rarest prep and the most important. You can't buy it. You can't fake it. You build it through discipline. Cold showers, solo drills, controlled isolation. Pushing yourself past your comfort until pressure becomes your new normal. I don't care how sharp your knife is or how tricked out your bug-out vehicle looks, if you can't stay sharp up here, Tap's head. You're just another walking liability. And here's the worst part. When people crack mentally, they take others down with them. Tell me, have you ever trained your mind the way you train your gear? Ever pushed yourself into silence, stress, or discomfort on purpose just to see how you respond? Drop it in the comments, because collapse isn't just about what you carry. It's about what carries you when everything else is gone. Number 9, hoarding supplies without learning how to rebuild them. You've got supplies, right? Canned goods, medical gear, ammo, water filters, maybe even backup power. But let me ask you this, when those run out, then what? Most preppers are stuck in stockpile survival. They think collapse is about holding out surviving long enough for things to get better. Newsflash. What if they don't? What if this isn't a 30-day grid-down scenario, but a full system-wide breakdown that never recovers? Your supplies might get you through a month, 2 if you're lucky. But unless you've built skills to regenerate, produce, or repair, you're just delaying starvation. What happens when your last lighter's gone? When your final water filter clogs? When your garden seed stash runs dry and there's no Amazon, no tractor, no fertilizer? Collapse isn't just about storing. It's about sustainability. My take? I'll always respect a solid stockpile, but that's not survival. That's the waiting room. Real preppers don't hoard, they rebuild. I've made fire without a lighter. Grown food from seed I saved myself. I learned to purify water with zero gear, not because it's cool, but because the collapse doesn't reset after 60 days. If you can't fix, make, or regrow what you depend on, you're prepping for a countdown, not for collapse. Now tell me, what's one survival item you use but don't know how to replace if it vanishes tomorrow? Drop it in the comments, and no shame if you don't know yet. Just don't stay in that zone, because collapse won't stop when your last backup does. Number 10, prepping without accounting for sleep deprivation. You're prepping for chaos, looting, blackouts, breakdowns. You've thought about food, water, defense, mobility. But there's one thing most preppers completely overlook: sleep. Or more specifically, the lack of it. In a real collapse, you're not sleeping 8 hours in a cozy bed. You're sleeping in shifts, if at all. You're waking up every 40 minutes to noises, possible threats, barking dogs, screaming neighbors, maybe even your own anxiety. And when sleep goes, everything else follows. You make slower decisions. You lose reaction time. You snap at your group. You forget basic steps, overlook danger, mess up your routine. And here's the brutal reality. Most preppers have never tested themselves under true sleep deprivation. They think, I'll be fine, I'll just push through. That's not how it works. Sleep debt adds up. After 24 hours without rest, your cognitive function drops like you're legally drunk. By day 3, your brain starts hallucinating. And if you're still running ops, patrolling, cooking, or making survival calls during that, you're a liability to yourself and to your people. My take? Collapse doesn't give you breaks. And unless you've trained to function under 2 to 4 hours of interrupted sleep, for days on end, you're not ready. I've done drills where we went 48 hours on pure adrenaline and discipline. By the end, simple tasks felt like puzzles. Good ideas turn stupid fast. And that's where I saw the truth. Sleep isn't a luxury, it's a weapon. Smart preppers train to function without it, and just as importantly, they build plans around how to protect it, rotating watches, safe zones, fast shelter setups, anything to buy 2 hours of real rest. Let me throw it to you. What's your plan when sleep gets scarce? Have you ever pushed past 24, 36, even 48 hours of chaos and still had to operate? Drop it in the comments because in collapse, the most dangerous man is the one who's too tired to think. Number 11. Ignoring sanitation as a collapse threat. You've got food, you've got ammo, you've got shelter, but if you're ignoring sanitation, you're walking straight into disease, infection, and breakdown from the inside out. Let's cut the fantasy. In a real collapse, plumbing stops. Trash piles up, toilets back up. You'll be living in your own filth if you haven't thought this through, and no amount of bullets will save you from a stomach virus or a bacterial outbreak when there's no hospital, no antibiotics, no running water. Most people overlook hygiene. Why? Because it's not sexy. They're focused on tactics, not toilet paper. On defense, not diarrhea. But the truth is, bad hygiene takes people out faster than bullets ever will. Think trench foot, infected wounds, contaminated water, bugs, rodents, collapse, turns your living space into a breeding ground for sickness if you're not deliberate. My take? You better have a field sanitation setup, backup, soap, bleach, trash disposal plan, off-grid toilet method. I keep lye, gloves, sealed bags, and basic disinfectants packed like gold. Because collapse isn't clean, and if you can't manage your waste, it'll manage you. Let's make this real. What's your off-grid sanitation plan? Where do you go? What do you use? How do you disinfect when there's no tap, no flush, and no garbage pickup? Share it in the comments. Because if you don't handle your mess now, it'll handle you later. Number 12. Thinking collapse will happen all at once. People picture collapse like a Hollywood movie: sirens, explosions, news anchors screaming. It's happening in real time. But that's not how real collapse works. It doesn't slam in like a wave, it leaks in like a slow, silent flood. You don't wake up in chaos. You wake up in a slow decline, inflation creeping, shelves thinning, crime rising, power flickering, systems cracking. And before you know it, the world's different, and you didn't notice until it was too late. That's the danger. When you're prepping for a dramatic overnight collapse, you miss the warning signs of the slow burn that's already started. My take? Real preppers don't wait for a headline. They move early. They treat food shortages like fire alarms. They test their gear before panicking. They relocate, resupply, reinforce while everyone else is still tweeting. Collapse won't come with a bang. It'll come with a shrug. And the ones who make it through, they'll be the ones who already left while the rest were still watching. Think on this. Are you waiting for a big moment to start reacting? Or are you reading the smoke before the fire? Drop your perspective in the comments. I want to know, are you prepping for panic or preparing through a pattern? So here's the brutal truth. Most people watching this are still making at least one of these mistakes. Not because they're lazy, but because they're human. They confuse being busy with being ready. They prep like it's a checklist instead of a mindset. But collapse doesn't grade on effort. It doesn't reward almost ready. It exposes every weakness. And it does it fast. If you're serious about survival, not the fantasy, not the Instagram version, but real, gritty, uncomfortable collapse, then this channel is where you train that mindset, not just with gear, not just with tactics, but with the cold, clear thinking that most people run from. Because while they're watching feel-good prepper content, we're over here building the mentality that actually survives. So here's your moment. If anything in this video challenged you, if even one of these mistakes made you think twice, then don't just sit there. Hit that subscribe button. Because next time, we're going deeper. And trust me, you don't want to be the one left behind, watching the world collapse through a cracked phone screen still thinking you had more time.